Okay, Thiruvan Sarnai, may you have the blessings of the Noble Triple Gem. Dhamma friends, we are going to begin the Saturday evening Sutta studies with the wholesome participation of our Dhamma friends. Today, the 2025 April 26, Saturday evening, I'm joining the discussion from the Hilda Javardhana Rame Ottawa, and you all join from your own places. So all are warmly welcome for this evening Sutta study session. Let me begin the Sutta studies by paying homage to the Supreme Buddha by reciting Namo Tassa 3 times. Please join with me to respect the Supreme Buddha. Sadhu, sadhu, sadhu. Namo tassa bhagavato arahato samma sambuddhassa. Namo tassa bhagavato arahato samma sambuddhassa. Namo tassa bhagavato arahato samma sambuddhassa. I pay my homage to the Blessed One, the Worthy One, the fully enlightened One. Homage to the Blessed One, the Worthy One, the fully enlightened One. Homage to the Blessed One, the Worthy One, the fully enlightened One. Sadhu, sadhu, sadhu. Dhamma friends, once again you are all welcome to this episode of Sutta Study Class. I'm really thankful for everyone for waiting to participate in the Sutta discussion. I was away from the temple for nearly 2 months. During that period, you were either listening to previous discussion or you were able to listen to various Dhamma talks given by other venerable monks. Somehow you have managed to engage with the Dhamma with that you develop yourself or with anything shared by Kalyana Mittas. I'm happy that I could begin the Sutta discussion. This Sutta study class, as you know, is designed for exploring the knowledge of the Buddha's teaching based on the suttas from Digha Nikaya, Majjhima Nikaya, Samyutta Nikaya, Anguttara Nikaya, and Khuddaka Nikaya. We also take beautiful Dhamma from the Vinaya Pitaka and also Abhidhamma Pitaka as necessary. So our idea is to take important discourses from 3 baskets of the Buddha's teaching and open up a discussion for wise people. You all understand the Dharma. So today, after 2.5 months of the vacation, we are going to take a beautiful Dhamma discourse from the Buddha. Even though I said it is from originally mainly from the Buddha, when you read the discourse, you know that it is partly from the Buddha and also from the Venerable Mahakaccayana, a wonderful, a very elegant monk at the time of the Buddha, Mahakaccayana. The discourse is taken from the Majjhima Nikaya, as you can see from in the flyer. It is called Madhupindika Sutta. This sutta is 18th sutta of the Majjhima Nikaya. It belongs to the first category of the Majjhima Nikaya, the middle and discourses of the Buddha. The English translation to the title is called The Discourse on the Honey Ball. So it means that the Dharma in the discourse is so sweet like honey. We'll see how it is. First, I would like to give an introduction to the discourse, and then we pick up the main point. Sometimes we read the discourse in not fully, but places which are important for our discussion. So there is no particular format in that regard, but we try our best to cover the content of the particular discourse for the day. and without any lap, and give some moment for you all to question. This sutta, if I go to the introduction, is a wonderful discourse known by many monks and lay people because the Dharma in the discourse is widely discussed elsewhere in the Tripitaka, like in this discourse. Um, if you participate in conversation about the Buddha's philosophy, about the main theme of the Buddha's practice, you come across this discourse because the Dharma, this discourse, explain is wide, is important, and with regard to the Paticcasamuppada for dependent origination, with regard to how suffering arises, and how one should go forward in the noble training, and what he or she has to focus on. All these questions take us to this discourse at some point of our discussion, so that this is one of the very famous discourses from Majjhima Nikaya and also from the entire, Tripitaka. The key figures of the discourse are the Buddha, Supreme Buddha. When the Buddha was at the Nigrodha Park in Kapilavastu, this incident happened between the Buddha and one of the Sakyan called Dandapani. So, in many cases, the Buddha was not scheduling program for him to go and deliver Dhamma. It happens spontaneously. Situation came without prior notice, so the Buddha took the situation wisely and delivered the Dhamma. This is another important occasion. So Buddha was at the Nigrodharama, and the Buddha, prepare himself for daily work in the morning, and he went on Pindapata to the Kapilavastu, the main city of his relatives. After the Pindapata, after the alms round, the Buddha went to the great forest. It is called Mahavana in the text, which is located near Kapilavastu city. He was sitting under a bilwa tree near that Kapilavastu in the Mahavana. So Dandapani, one of the Sakyans, actually this person is famous for disputing the Buddha and the teaching for some reason. He was a very close, relative to the Buddha, but he was unable to absorb the Buddha's importance, like many Sakyans, so that he was criticizing the Buddha with some fellow Sakyans, because some Sakyan failed their discipline, and instead of blaming themselves, they blame the Buddha, they blame the Sangha. One of the persons like that is Dandapani. The name Dandapani came to him because of his behavior. He was taking a stick and walking always. This is why people call him Dandapani. Danda means stick, Pani means maybe the one who has a stick in his hand. Pani means hand. So Dandapani was also walking leisurely to release the release pain in his leg. This is usual practice. If you want to take some good exercise, you just get out of the house and walk here and there for a few minutes, for hours or so. Likewise, people who really enjoy the nature, they would go to the forest and walking for some time. And Dandapani was also doing the same thing. Then both the Buddha and Dandapani met each other at the place the Buddha was sitting, and Dandapani asked questions from the Buddha. This is the question. Um, this is the question he asked. What does the recluse say? What does the recluse teach? So, what is the teaching? The Buddha, explained to his disciple or wider society. In Pali, I can tell you this. Uh, this is what Dandapani says. What exactly you mean? Kingwadi samano kimakkai. What exactly the Gautama Buddha teach the world? So then Buddha, the Buddha gave a simple answer. Also, it just means friend. I say and teach in such a way so as not to quarrel with anyone in this world, with its gods, its maras, its ragmas, this generation with its recluse and brahmin, its rulers and people. I think you may not be able to follow these long lines, long sentences. The simple meaning of this statement of the Buddha as the answer is, I teach something. Uh, I teach something that never leads the listeners never leads to quarrel and fight with anyone in this world. In this world system, we have different beings, devas, humans, divine beings, and brahmas, the higher gods, along with other living species. The way I teach is not quarrelsome, and also the one who listen to the teaching I teach may not be able to corral themselves. So that kind of teaching I am having, I'm doing, and then Buddha continues, and in such a way that perception no more lie latent in that Brahmin also abide detached from sensual pleasures, free from doubt, having cut off worry, free from craving for any kinds of existence. So the second part of the answer is that the the I teach I teach my teaching, and in that the perception that the listeners create is not leading themselves to any sort of latent tendencies. In other words, the way I teach never lead anyone to have sensual pleasures and doubt and worry and latent the craving and all sort of attachment is are going away from people where and that is my teaching. So basically this is a very technical answer which sometimes we need to think deeply, since Dandapani just asked the question just to humiliate the Buddha, just to uh, you know just to make the Buddha tired. He does not want to learn the Dhamma from the Buddha. His intention was to ask a question, and if the question is easy and simple, he might thought that I should do something negative. So his whole purpose was to make the Buddha tired, maybe dispute the teaching of the Buddha, whatever it is. However, even if he wants to make any negative things over there, he should be able to understand the Buddha's statement. He didn't understand a word of it. Then Dandapani said that this is what I say also. Buddha said that this is what I can tell you. Then, without speaking any words, the Dandapani, wagged his tongue, raised his eyebrows until there were three furrows in his brow. So you know what it is when you do not know something to say, out of embarrassment, you make some expression from your face. So that's what Dandapani said, and leaning on his stick, he left. So usually, this is what happened under the Bilwa tree in Mahavan, a great forest near Kapilavastu, when the Buddha met Dandapani in that afternoon time. So this is the first incident happened. Then the evening time came and the Buddha had gone to the monastery, and there was something for the Buddha to tell his disciple right now, because the time has come for bhikkhus and bhikkhunis to come and take some advice from the Buddha. And the Buddha thought that I should tell this happening during the afternoon with Dandapani. And then the Buddha delivered the Dharma there. Now in the morning, I went on Pindapata to Kapilavastu. After having lunch, I went to Great Forest for rest, and there I met Dandapani, the Sakyan, and he asked this question, and I answered this way. There he was unable to understand what I said and left. When this was said, a certain monk without a name, we don't know his name, a certain monk from the monks group over there stood up and explained the Buddha that what is exactly the Buddha teach. It was a moment for bhikkhus to question the Buddha for further information about the Dharma, because the Dandapani's question is really interesting. What is the question? What are you teaching? We can ask these same questions because we haven't understood the Dharma fully. We have a lot to do in our training on Sila Samadhi and Panya, so we may have a lot of things to know. So that this question is valid for us today. So the bhikkhu who was asking the question said that, Bante, please tell us what exactly you teach. There the Buddha explained that this is the core of the discourse, but later on it is expanded in many ways. This bhikkhu and all the bhikkhus were given a beautiful answer. This is the answer. Give me a second. My computer. Yeah, I'm taking the Pali one. Yeah, this is the answer. Yato nidanang bhikkhu purisang papancha sanya sanka samudacharanti etta che natti abhinanditabbang abhivaditabbang ajjositabbang esevanto raganusayanang esevanto patiganusayanang esevanto dittanusayanang esevanto vichikiච්ඡානුසයානං esevanto මානානුසයානං esevanto භවරාගානුසයානං esevanto avijjāනුසයානං esevanto danda dāna sattā dāna kalaha viggaha vivāda tuang pesunya musāvādānaං itte te pāpaka kusala dhamma aparisesa nirujjanti idamavaca bhagava idam vatu. I know that it's too difficult for you to understand. I went to Pali version of the Discord just because the English version didn't come. I think it's okay now. This is the answer. Bhikkhus, as regard the source from which proliferation of conception and perception, a sailor person, if one were to find nothing there to delight in, nothing there to welcome, nothing there to cling to, This is the end of the latent tendency of lust, aversion, views, doubt, conceit, desire for existence, and ignorance. This is the ending of the taking off of the rod and the sword, quarrels, dispute, strips, slandering, and lying. Here, these evil, unwholesome state cause without reminder. This is what the Buddha said. Having said this, the Buddha rose from his seat and entered his dwelling. So still, the statement of the Buddha is deep. Perhaps getting a kind of clue of what he said would be difficult. So that it is very important for us to go into details of it. Basically, the Buddha here said that mental proliferation, this is called prapancha sanya, and sanka, perception. So basically, the mental proliferation means the mind travels from object to object, from idea to idea, from feeling, perception. In between all these things, mind travels. In other words, the breeding ground for our mind is the sixth sense basis, and the mind travels from one thing to another, one picture to another picture, one sound to another sound, and whatever the mind has been creating by taking the sensory objects, the mind travel around and in and out of those creation. So this is called mental proliferation. But the question is there wholesome traveling of our mind? We talk about the mental proliferation in a negative connotation, with the negative connotation, but do we have good mental travel into? Some people ask, because when we think about the meditation we did last year, or when we think about the pilgrimage we did last year, or any historical event you participate in the name of Dhamma, thinking about them is bad. People ask, thinking about them right now is bad or good, because it's also traveling to the things you did in the past, or something wholesome you are going to do next month. You imagine. So we cannot say that they are really bad, but this is particularly called the mental proliferation with ignorance. So basically, this mental proliferation and perception, assail a person, which means this particular thinking is taking people into negative conclusion. It is said in the discourse, if one were to find nothing there to delight in, nothing there to welcome, nothing there to cling to, this is the end of all kinds of latent tendencies. So Buddha taught that if anything you do does not give you any chance of developing latent tendencies, anusaya, that is called the ending of mental proliferation. In other words, whatever the mind travels, whatever the causes are there for the mind to travel and wander here and there, that cause suffering. And that sort of suffering is going to end when the mind do not delight on those things, when the mind do not find sensual pleasures on that. So that all the latent tendencies, there are 7 latent tendencies mentioned here, and they are all gone. Here, I think we need to understand what latent tendencies are. Etymologically, latent tendency means the kilesa or unwholesomeness that lie in our mind, where they are very difficult to investigate without proper deep samadhi experience. And also without the participation of wisdom, we may not be able to even see these latent tendencies. So, suppose I would say that latent tendency of avijja. Uh, as example, a lot of people do not know what avijja is in their mind. They may not be able to tackle any avijja at all because it is something deep. It is always in our mind if we do not guard senses, so that it is very difficult for average persons to know it. Those who know avijja as a latent tendency, doubt as a latent tendency, and aversion, lust, and so on, they have some training. That's why they see them. So the Buddha said that what I teach is something not to quarrel, something to be away from fighting, arguments. In this world, we can see that people always argue. People always create so many problems on individual basis, on family basis, on social, uh, you know, national, regional, global level. We create problems because of latent tendencies. In other words, because of unwholesome thoughts, unwholesome feeling, unwholesome perception about ourselves and about everything. This is the very nature of the world at the time of the Buddha, and even today, and even in the future. So, what I'm teaching is to be away from this quarrelsome social context. And I do not argue with people. And the way I teach the Dharma is also without argument and so on. And those who practice what I teach is also learning uh, to be away from quarrel, fighting, and argument, and that sort of things. So when that happens, when those unwholesomeness are gone, there we don't see any any underlying tendency from your mind. This is the very simple answer Buddha gave to the monks over there. And having said that, the Buddha went to his particular chamber in the monastery for resting without explaining anything. Actually, uh, I added so many things when I explained the first part. The second part, Buddha did not explain much on that. He said that if mental proliferation create in this way, and if there is action, if there is thing that these latent tendencies are not created, and that is the end of dharma, and that is what I am teaching. The bhikkhus over there thought that the Buddha went away, and we do not understand the Buddha's short sermon. So, how can we know the details of this sermon? How can we know the meaning of this beautiful Dhamma? Then Bhikkhu suddenly thought that somebody we all respect, somebody that the Buddha revered very much should be found. Basically, we see from suttas that Venerable Sariputta, Venerable Mahakottita, sometime Venerable Moggallana, sometime Venerable Ananda. These are the monks who came forward and explained the Dhamma directly to bhikkhus and bhikkhunis and lay people when the Buddha is not present. So, but here, interestingly, monks over there did not remember any of those names, but one monk called Kachayana. So they discussed that Venerable Kachayana, he is called Mahakachayana, is appreciated by the Buddha uh, because of his skills as a senior monk. And at the same time, Mahakachayana is so famous in the Sasana to explain the Dhamma in a simple way, so that the bhikkhus thought that if we go to the Venerable Mahakachayana, we are going to know the meaning of this Buddha statement. So then they went to Venerable Mahakachayana, and explain the things the Buddha explained over there. And Venerable Mahakachan said that that I showed the conversation just because we need to take the content of the discourse. Venerable Mahakachan said that I cannot do this. You have come to me to know the Dhamma instead of asking question. Is compared to someone who goes to the forest for looking for hardwood of a tree. However, he goes and takes leaves and branches from the tree just because he doesn't know what is hardwood. So if this person come to the village with leaves and branches thinking that this is hardwood, we say that he doesn't know. Likewise, the Buddha is the master. The Buddha is the Dhamma teacher that can explain everything exactly. And we are disciple who knows less. So that why didn't you ask the questions from the Buddha? So better you go to the Supreme Buddha and ask the question next time. So then Bhikkhu said that we came to you because you were praised by the Buddha for explaining Dhamma. So that please, Bhante, tell us. So this conversation between Venerable Mahakacchayana and Bhikkhus goes on, and at the end, Venerable Mahakacchayana agreed to explain the meaning of the Buddha statement as he thinks. So we can see that part in the sutta next. The same thing is repeated in the discourse. Where the Buddha said this that as regard the source for which a proliferation of conception and perception assail a person. When so prapancha creates in our mind, that mind is seems trapped. That man perception is distorted. That man behavior is unwholesome because mental proliferation has created in his mind, and therefore whatever he does, whatever he thinks, whatever uh, he is going to do, they are all going to be negative because his mind has the seed of unwholesomeness. So therefore, if mental proliferation, if one were to find nothing there to delight, there means whenever we live in a normal life setting, we do not find anything to delight, which means we have a great understanding that all these things I see is only seeing, the things I hear is only hearing, and so forth. You have a particular understanding about the basic, investigation about ourselves. There, you do not create those underlying tendencies, one or two or few underlying tendencies. You are not creating them. That is the end of the suffering. That is the end of everything. So that is what the Buddha said to us, and we just want to know how mental proliferation arises, how prapancha arises, how one create moments for anusaya, underlying tendencies. So then Venerable Mahakacchayana humbly said that, okay, I will tell you, but you have to confirm these teachings with the Buddha when the Buddha visited the monastery again, and then only you fully confirm yourself that this is the Dharma of the Buddha. See how humble he is. We want this kind of characters today because um, we see lacking of grateful people. We see though they discuss the Dhamma, we cannot see some great qualities like this. So arahants are always perfect example for us. And Venerable Mahakacchayana was an arahant at the time he delivered this Dhamma discourse. So so far we have discussed, I think, 40% of the discourse. I can go one by one after the other in each factor, but it takes time. So what I plan for doing today is to explain the key happenings in the discourse. So far we covered, I think it's 60% of the sutta with all these stories. Now, Venerable Mahakachayana comes to very important part of the discourse. I skip the parable part. Venerable Mahakachayana tells here parable to tell, because how he is when he is compared to the Supreme Buddha. So then we can see Mahakachayana's response. That is very important. In that case, listen now. So pay close attention to it. I will speak. Sunata Dharita Charata Dami, similar statement. Or then Sunata Sadhukang Manasi Karota Basis Samiti. Venerable Mahakachan said, okay, listen to this and remember them and keep them in mind for future practice. This is a usual statement from the Buddha, from the great disciples well before they start the sermon. So then also the Blessed One rose from his seat and entered. So Mahakachayana said that after the Blessed Ones went to the chamber, he said that also dependent on the I and form, I consciousness arises. Remember this statement. Dependent on the I and form, I consciousness arises. Something we already know. Chakuncha paticca rupecha uppajjati chakku. So when we open our eyes, we see pictures. Then when the eyes meet their particular objects, or when the objects meet with the eye, what is arising after is called consciousness, eye consciousness. The meeting of the three is called phassa. The eyes come to join with the pictures, eye consciousness arises, and all these three is called contact, phassa. With contact as condition, there is feeling, and what one feels, one perceives. What one perceives, one thinks about. What one thinks about, one mentally proliferates. From that, as source, proliferation of conception and perception assail a person regarding past, future, present forms cognizable through the eye. So Venerable Mahakachayana started explaining how these papancha come into existence. So you have your eyes. When you open your eyes, you see pictures. Eye consciousness arises. These three, the sense, the sensory objects, and the feeling is called contact. And when there is contact taking place, right after contact, what is arising is feeling, vedana. Phassa paccha vedana. Depending on contact, feeling arises. Then what one feels, one perceives. What one perceives, one thinks about. What one thinks about, one mentally proliferate. See how the chain of thinking is going on. You cannot stop this flow of mental and physical things because they are happening very fast. So this is what happened. So you feel something, and what you perceive, what you feel, and there you think about what you perceive, and there you travel mentally to different conclusion. Prapancha means your mind goes from this particular object to next and do not control at all. And with regard to craving, with regard to clinging, with regard to ignorance, this particular person is going to be really negative because you have mental proliferation. So this mental proliferation becomes the source for all kinds of asavas, underlying tendencies. But when uh, with, uh, with regard to the other senses like ears, the nose, the tongue, the body, and the mind, we know that there are 6 sense bases. And when sensory experience happen, particular consciousness arises, such as eye consciousness, ear consciousness, and so forth. And we know now that after consciousness, to meet these 3 happenings together, there is contact. And when there is contact, we don't need to teach how to feel. Feeling part is taking place automatically. And then what you feel, you recognize, and then you start thinking. This is how you create the world or the current conditions of your life. This is how thinking is done. I would say that because the mind, the particular action of the mind is thinking, and it starts from the sensory functions, sensory experiences. So Venerable Mahakachayana was carefully explaining the way the mental proliferation begins. In other words, Venerable Mahakachan explained the way the craving arises, the avidya arises, all the underlying tendencies arises. So now Venerable Mahakachayana explained the particular thing in 6 ways based on 6 senses. So then Venerable Mahakachayana then they are said that if we want to end mental proliferation, prapancha, the way we need to act is the same as the Buddha explained in other places. If tendencies come into existence based on your mental reaction without wisdom, you will see that mental proliferation arises. And if we do not take the this particular mental mental reaction with negative thoughts, with ignorance, there you have no underlying tendencies at all, because underlying tendencies come into existence with the sensory experience. And if we take care of the sensory experience, the underlying tendencies are not going to arise. So I think I should stop here for allowing you to do some questions if you have. This is a very deep discourse. I would say that the depth of the discourse is going to be with some terms and some dharma in our mind with the perception and so forth. But a simple thing could be understood in this way. And if you read the discourse, you can catch up many things of the discourse. So anyhow, I just wanted to let you know that all the akusala arises, of course, in the mind, but mind start when sensory experiences takes place. So just like the Buddha said to Dandapani, all the quarrels, all the fighting, dispute, whether it is personal or family or social or countrywide, it doesn't matter. All the problems arise due to not knowing about what exactly the mind does with the senses. So this sutta therefore teaches philosophically that all the problems in our life start from the ignorance of the sensory function. So I know that this sutta is Madhupindika Sutta. The discourse on honey ball. It should be very tasty. It should be very interesting, because the name of the discourse is Madhupindika. However, the way we discuss, the things we discuss, the time we allocate for discussion could not be giving you that sort of tasty things in the Dharma. Anyhow, we all should try to understand the discourse, at least individually. If the discussion here is not giving you any clue, you better read it alone couple of times, There you understand the conversation between the Buddha and Dandapani, between the Buddha and bhikkhus, and also between the bhikkhus and Mahakaccayana, Venerable Mahakaccayana. So they are very interesting points. And the Dharma now we entered into is really important too. All right. So is there any concern, questions, or any additions for this so far? I would say while you are getting ready, I would say that we need another session to finalize this course, because a lot of Dharma factors could be attached to this Madhubindika Sutta, so that I would better take the second part of the Sutta next week. Do you have anything to add? I appreciate you if you could unmute and talk if you have any concern. I know that reading suttas is difficult because of few reasons, such as they are long and the way they have written is also difficult. The pattern of the sutta, but you know what? The Buddha delivered these suttas while he was living, which means in 5th century BCE. Look at the way he explained the Dharma. There is no single place to see that he struggled in explaining Dharma, just because he is very keen, very direct, so that thinking about the Buddha is also giving us blessings. So in the suttas, content are very interesting too. If you look at the Madhubindika Sutta or any other sutta, you see the introduction, you see why it happens. Then the Dharma the Buddha discuss is recorded. So then what happened to disciples at the end is also added. So the discourses or suttas are very developed source of Dharma. So that when you read the discourse, you may understand a lot of things from Madhubindika Sutta. If you Google Madhubindika Sutta, you will find many interpretations, translations, and discussion on this. So better you take them and read or listen. So you would be picking up so many interesting things. The other thing is, without meditation on on our mind, on senses, on the entire body, I think we do not move on. So that practicing meditation while reading suttas is really important, because you are testing yourself on these qualities. You are going to know, is there latent tendency of lust in me? Is my mind is free from this and that? So you question yourself on certain things that you know when exactly you take the suttas for Dhamma discussion. Okay, can see some, but no one has a question, I guess. We do not have anything. I would explain this part again. A lot of people like to take the Four Noble Truths and dependent origination, the Noble Eightfold Path, and so forth for discussion. They think that the Dharma is manifested to us when only we take these beautiful but very deep teaching. I would say yes for some people, but for many people, I would say no, because understanding the Four Noble Truth with your wisdom or in bhavana needs some time. And practicing jhana and completing certain qualities on the Noble Eightfold Path should require so many resources. So time should be a matter. So I'm not telling that you should go to understand these terms directly. You may. But when we come to practical sense, how do we understand the Four Noble Truth? How we understand the Paticsamuppada? We can find them in simple terms. Let me tell you an example. Suppose one is sick or one is terminally ill. So instead of going and telling the Four Noble Truths or Paticsamuppada, we can tell this particular person that this is the way life goes, and any person who is born to this world experience aging and pain is always there. So just to make sure that you keep your mind on right thinking. And so you talk about such things with the person you met. So this person listened to you carefully and understand now that, yes, I would be away from all the wrongdoings because it's a short time to live. I have no much time to live. So I should be kind, I should be compassionate, I should be generous. So what has happened there, without telling names of Four Noble Truth, Paticsamuppada, karma, this and that, he practiced those things in his practical life. Likewise, friends, this sutta is deep, but the way Venerable Mahakacchayan explained the way Papancha rises is really simple. Just take how latent tendencies are developed when you use your senses. If you unguard your senses there, you create underlying tendencies on feeling, on perception in your mind. So basically, the problems start with the sensory experience. Eyes, ears, nose, the tongue, the body, the mind. These are the senses, and the respective objects are form, and then sound, and then smell, taste, touch, and also phenomena. So when the senses meet the particular sensory experiences, eye consciousness horizon, and etc., etc., so the underlying tendencies are. If you do not allow this, how do we do that? How do we do that? There you have to understand the same thing. It's called discerning mental proliferation. So you take, you consider the sensory experience is such so that you can apply the teaching. This is how Venerable Mahakacchayan explained that order. Also, when there is the ear, when there is the eye, when there is form and eye consciousness, a manifestation of contact can be discerned. It is possible for this to occur. And then when there is mental proliferation of contact and feeling and so on, they all arises due to not knowing about it. So Venerable Mahakacchayan, give me a second, come to ending of the round of existence by saying that no I, no form, no consciousness. When one of the requirements of consciousness of contact is gone, the problem could not be starting, because there is no possibility for underlying tendency of lust arise, underlying tendency of ignorance, because you do not take the sensory experience as I, me, and myself, because mana anusaya, the latent tendency of I, me, and my thinking is gone. So basically, Venerable Mahakacchayan explained the way that mental proliferation is not there based on all six senses. So having said this, he finally said that this is the way I understand the Buddha's statement. I think this is the best possible way I can tell the Dharma behind the Buddha's statement. So if this is not good for you, if you do not accept this, Just go to the Buddha and tell each word I utter, and the Buddha will tell you what exactly these things, what exactly the Buddha taught for the world, what exactly the Dhamma does for us when we practice it, and how one ends suffering entirely. So these are some of the things you could find out when you come to the fully understanding of the sutta. So start the sensory experience. So that is what the sutta tells. Having said this, I would like to come to the last few paragraphs of the sutta. Venerable Mahakachana finished the discourse, and the monks went to the Buddha and explained A to Z. The discussion between Venerable Mahakachana and the bhikkhus were, explained by a particular monk to the Buddha, and the Buddha said that simply, Venerable Mahakachana is excellent. He is a very, uh, important disciples of me. So, whatever the Mahakachayana said is remarkable. And if I were there, I would explain the same thing to I would explain the same thing to, because the Buddha praised Venerable Mahakachayana in many ways. So then Venerable Mahakachayana explained complete his teaching, and when this was said in front of the Buddha, the Buddha praised the Venerable monks listened to the praising of Venerable Mahakachayana. Sorry about this. Venerable Mahakachayana was so much appreciated by the Buddha. Then Venerable Ananda was there, and he said to the Buddha, Bhante, just as a person exhausted by hunger and weakness were to come upon a honey ball, suppose there is a hungry person, the person who has not taken any food for several days is in utter pain, and if I were to give a honey ball to this particular person, what kind of reaction he is going to have, because he is not eating anything for several hours. Now he's hungry. Now if we give a honey ball to him, what kind of things happen? Venerable Ananda said, Bhante, just as a person exhausted by hunger and weakness were to come upon by a honey ball, wherever he were to taste it, he would get a sweet, agreeable taste. Even so, Bhante, any able-minded bhikkhu, any skillful bhikkhu, wherever he might examine with wisdom the meaning of this Dharma Sutta, he would find satisfaction and confidence of mind. Bhante, what is the name of the Dharma discourse? Here, Venerable Ananda said something very, very interesting. This particular piece of Dhamma, the Buddha explained, is really, really important. And it is like a honey ball for somebody who is hungry. It means that the person who has not taken anything for several, meal might enjoy all the honey, because he or she is in hungry. Likewise, the one who seek the Dhamma for ending suffering, this particular teaching is so important. It's so taste. Due to the sweet and tasty part of the Dharma in this discourse, please tell us a name for this discourse. Venerable Ananda said. So every time the Buddha explains something, that particular sermon is given a name either by the Buddha or disciples later on. So Venerable Ananda, being the foremost of remembering the Dhamma, asked the question, what would be the right name for this piece of Dhamma? So the Buddha's answer is like this. Um, what is the name of this Dharma discourse? In this connection, Ananda, you may remember this Dharma discourse as the honey ball discourse. The Blessed One said this, and Venerable Ananda and all the monks explained their pleasure and joy and respect. So this reading of the sutta is very simple thing, because I didn't go to details of the discourse. Key terms are there in the discourse, but we did not go to the details of it. Of course, we can take the 7 underlying tendencies into a discussion, and we can elaborate it further. We also can take prapancha into our discussion, mental proliferation, because this is one of the terms that a lot of people could not understand. So the other thing in the discourse are information, background information, and how the Buddha and Venerable Mahakachan and Bhikkhus came to a very good discussion, so that they are not difficult to follow. But key terms of the discourse is anusaya, prapancha. All anusaya, all underlying tendencies are prapancha, in other words. And if you understand prapancha more, you don't need to go into a deep Dharma discussion on this on Tripitaka, but you can easily analyze that everything that some people say, everything that people think is called prapancha. Because if there is no wisdom, if there is no any signs of samadhi there, it turn into prapancha. But prapancha is not thinking in a way. Prapancha comes to a effect when we have seen and when we have hearing. There you have particular consciousness, contact, then perception, feeling have arises. There you start thinking about, and in that thinking box, you create anusaya and other unskillfulness. Now you are particularly in that state where you can discuss the Dhamma, because these terms tells you a lot of Dhamma facts maybe not found in other discourse. So that these are some of the highlight Dhamma facts in the discourse. And interestingly, everything happens dependently, which means that we can discuss the dependent theory within Madhubindika Sutta. So this is it, and please take your time if you have any questions. Okay, I don't think we have questions. Is Paul is going to ask something? I can hear you. See what looked like branches, and then I realized the branches had shoes on the boots. All right, if you do not have anything to say, I would end the Sutta discussion for today. After 2 months of vacation, I take this discourse just because I need to start a discussion on it. So what Madhubindika Sutta, just like the Buddha said and Venerable Anand said, is a very tasty Dharma piece. Perhaps you don't get it as the way we explain anyhow. You have chance to read it. If you Google the Sutta Madhubindika, you get it. And it is a very interesting but very profound discourse. This tells us the practicality of the Dharma. So you better read it again. It takes about 20-30 minutes to complete the reading. Sometime even a shorter period you take. So the key points should be picked up and thought about. Okay. If there are no questions, I would end today's discussion by sharing merits. Our intention is to allow our Dhamma friends to explore the Buddha's wisdom. There you have a chance of cultivating your qualities, kusala, for your peace and happiness. The nirvana, I think you came with wholesome thought and participate in the discussion. And by listening to the discourse, you not only help us, but you also thought of reading the discourse, which is another kusala. So all these merits should be with you and your family, and may you be able to stay well and healthy with the Dhamma. And any person you want to share merits, particularly those who are sick, do so, and may they also be well, happy, and peaceful. Having said this, I'm going to end today's discussion. May you all attain Nibbana, just like the Buddha said in this discourse, just like Venerable Mahakachayana expanded the knowledge in this discourse. May you be well, may you be happy, may you be peaceful. Sadhu, sadhu, sadhu.